John, thanks for joining me today. What I wanted to do is spend a few minutes and talk about your amazing experience that you have, and specifically the relationship that you've developed over the years with Nancy Pelosi. And I want to go back and before I took this job as the CEO of the Realtor Association of San Francisco, you and I met in Anaheim several years back at a bus stop as we were going to a national convention, and we got to talking about this. So tell me about what that role is and why it's so important to the organization.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's great to sort of kind of expand upon that quick conversation we had on the shuttle bus from the hotel to the National Association of Realtors meetings. And you mentioned Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi specifically. And in that part of my life with the National Association of Realtors is that I am her FPC, and that stands for Federal Political Coordinator. The system that the National Association of Realtors set up has identified one member to be that primary contact with each of the elected officials.
And when you say one member, John, is that one member, they could be from Texas or Montana and have that relationship with somebody in California?
Typically, NAR prefers, and it makes sense, that in fact that you live or work in the district of that elected official. Because what the FPCs do is augment the relationship in advocacy that the realtors have, not with data and facts and this is why you should do this, Mr. or Ms. elected official, but rather there's enough of a personal relationship that you can have a conversation, recognizing that even if that particular elected official disagrees with the position that the National Association of Realtors has, it doesn't mean that, I don't even hear you. The intention of the FPCs is to be able to have a personal relationship and conversation so that we can share the story of why this elected official should agree with us.
And when you say us, you mean the Realtor Association?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. If you're in that role, I got to imagine that from time to time, you may have some personal thoughts that disagree. How do you reconcile the two of those things, or how do you act in the moment when you're wearing the hat representing the association?
You know, it really is that thread of being responsible for the role that you have either been appointed to or elected to. The reality is all of us in our personal lives have opinions on a variety of subjects, including those in real estate. And they're really, and the relationship is not so much, it's what's John's relationship with Speaker Emerita Pelosi. It's rather the relationship that the National Association of Realtors, in its vetted decisions, because it's not one person at NAR that makes a decision. It goes through the committees, goes through executive committee, and on some serious issue goes through the board of directors where they make a decision that this is what the National Association of Realtors position is. And my role as the FPC is to articulate that position, recognizing that even during the deliberation process, I may have gotten to the floor and expressed my own opinion. But the body makes that decision, and my role is to represent that decision. And so it's really the thoughts and positions that the National Association of Realtors has with the office of House of Representative members that Speaker Emerita Pelosi has. Because she herself may have varied positions, but there is a position from her role, you know, and at one time as a speaker, you know, of the House. Sure. So I think that's the distinction, is understanding the roles that we play and how that fits into interaction. So.
Yeah, what I often think about listening to you describe that, it's that concept of we speak with one voice. We come out of a boardroom, so no different than how we should operate here locally as an association. Same kind of thing. We come out of a committee meeting, we come out of a board meeting, and there's one voice that moves forward, and there's usually a spokesperson that represents that voice.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I would say that, it's a little bit tangential, but I think totally appropriate, is that I've been involved with the realtors. I've been a licensed real estate broker for 43 years.
Wow.
And I've been involved in the realtor association side on some level for probably close to 32. And the thing that really speaks to me as being a realtor is that this organization, whether nationally, statewide, or locally, does appropriately get different opinions into the room, so that you have different perspectives. And sometimes I've been in committee meetings or directors meetings where it's fairly hotly deliberated.
Sure.
But because everyone has had a chance to share a perspective, and it's best to have as many perspectives as you can in the room. That's where I think having a broad cross-section of ideas and experience is important. Then the group itself makes a decision. And once that decision is made, I always felt comfortable as a committee member, as a director, that, okay, I've had my say, I've heard other perspectives, it maybe even changed my mind, or maybe my thoughts changed somebody else's mind, but ultimately we voted, and as a body made a decision that this is what this body's position will be. And so, so I think I've been in other organizations where decisions are made just by a small core group of people, which is not healthy in the long run, because everybody gets involved because they want to feel they have a voice. And I think the skill set that you bring, if you are appointed as an FPC at the federal level, as a state political coordinator on the state level, and perhaps someday even a San Francisco political coordinator, if something is
for
parallel for a supervisor here, is to understand that you are that direct contact because you have some sort of personal relationship where that elected official will respond to your texts, will respond to your voicemails, because then you can have an opportunity to have the conversation. But also it's very clear that you are in this role a representative of the association that appointed you.
Yeah.
And so,
how do you get a start in that? You gave an example. We were chatting before we started this about a hairdresser. So, do I go find out where my supervisor is getting their hair done and go sit next to him and have that conversation?
Well, I think that that's a very granular example, but it's to really be engaged. You don't apply to say, I want to be the federal political coordinator of this individual or the state political of this individual, and just say, because I want it. The reality is the National Association of Realtors or the California Association of Realtors will look and see, okay, what can this individual bring to the relationship with this elected official that is able to effectively represent the positions that the associations have. And so I think so in most cases, it's not necessarily, I've served on this, I've had this committee member at this committee position, I've been the president here. All that can play a role because ideally those positions have given that particular member a broad understanding.
Sure.
But the personal relationship. So most federal elected officials didn't just say, I'm going to run for Congress. Well, nowadays some people do, but normally they've gone through on the local level, maybe at a board of education, ultimately the supervisor and the state level. And so to the extent that a person becomes engaged for whatever reason on that level, then that relationship will carry weight in the decision. Yeah. And it is, you think about it, NAR has 1,300,000 members. Yeah. They've identified a person for each of the elected officers. That's only a few hundred. Yeah. For Congress and for senators. So it's a
pretty special role.
It's a special role.
Yeah. What's one advice as we close out here? What's one advice you would give to members of our association if this is something they're passionate about. If they're passionate about politics, either local, state, national, and they have a relationship with somebody, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think to continue building that relationship, and that can be attending events that elected official hosts, ideally ones that are related to real estate, but not only. You know, if there's some other issues like for the libraries or something. And recently, I think Assemblymember Catherine Stephanie with the Contractors Board hosted a event in Golden Gate Park about senior scams. And so that's not, quote, directly connected to real estate, but it's something that, well, being someone who fits that category, I was interested in going. And so that's how the relationship is built. That's number one. Number two, start understanding the issues that are important to real estate from a realtor standpoint. Can be local, can be state, can be federal. But become involved in that. Get on the committees that deliberate those issues, even if you're not selected to be a committee member, unless it's a closed committee meeting, attend it, and just to get an idea. Because two things happen. One, you learn on a more granular level the issues that are important, because you will have staff folks who do that all the time to add perspective in the room. And you as a committee member will be able to bounce back your thoughts. And then so that gives you a great idea of really what the positions are. The second thing that happens is you understand how the decisions that the realtors as a body, you know, whether on the local level, state level, or federal, make decisions. Because what that does, it'll give you the confidence that the decisions were not just made willy-nilly. That they were deeply debated. And that the decisions were then made by the body as a whole based on that deliberation. Because what that does, it gives you the confidence, you know, when you're with the elected official, that when I'm with Speaker Emerita Pelosi herself, or most of the time perhaps with their staff, that that you have some conviction in why this position that you have is important, one, and you have some data behind why that position was made. Let me close out with saying that, so technically, I am the federal political coordinator for Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, pretty high profile person in Washington, D.C., but I would say 80%, 85% of my interaction, especially for this position, is with their staff. And oftentimes the staff is as important as the actual relationship, because every elected official on all levels have so many things in front of them. They rely on their staff to have done the groundwork, to advise them, you know, to give them the option what position that you want to take, but here are the other issues. So oftentimes when we go to Washington, D.C. at the NAR legislative meetings, we may be meeting with the staff rather than the elected official, because you know they're doing what they do in Congress. But the reality is, don't say, darn, I wanted to meet the elected official. You're meeting maybe the most important folks at all. So why in particular is important? Most staffers for elected officials, especially in Washington, D.C., but in California also, are younger. They've just gotten out of college, maybe just finished grad school. Most of them have not yet ever purchased a home. So their perspective is kind of intellectual. And our role as the federal political, and really any director who meets with an elected official and their staff, is to have the staffer start internalizing what it really means. So I often...
that's great advice.
I often open with a question. So, you know, do you own a home? Oh, really? And do your parents or a family member, were you engaged in that some way? And when you want to have it so it's not just an academic position, but something that means something to them.
It's building that relationship, right?
That's
Having that local,
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for making the time to do this. I greatly appreciate it. And I just want to acknowledge the years of service that you have put in, not only locally, but for helping the bigger brand of the Realtor Association at the state and national level. That's huge.
Yeah, well, you're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Jim, for the opportunity to have this conversation. And I think that why I do what I do is similar to a lot of my peers and associations, is we know that homeownership makes a difference in lives. It empowers families, and anything that we can do to assist that is important. I do that as a practitioner, but the reality, the rules of the road, the laws and regulations that enable or hinder that are important. And then in the organized real estate position, that's where I can bring some value.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.